Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, that weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. Our topics tonight: the Mission Gateway Project, Mission Impossible. It looks like mission accomplished for American Rail supporters. And our backers of legalized marijuana in Missouri just blowing smoke. Plus, roast and toast from the panelists. But first, our Ruckus newsmaker, Peter De Silva, President and Chief Operating Officer at UMB Financial, and an active supporter of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. Mr. De Silva joins us to talk about part of the Chamber's Big Five program announced 3 years ago. We'll focus on the effort to make Kansas City the nation's most entrepreneurial city. What does that mean? How do you achieve it? What are the results so far? All good questions. Now let's get some good answers. We turn to Peter De Silva. Peter, welcome to the Ruckus program. Good of you to stop by.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Give us a working definition of an entrepreneur. How do we know one when we see one?
Great question, and the answer is almost anyone can be an entrepreneur. Since we've started this initiative 3 years ago, we found everything from activities going on in individuals' basements all the way up to very, very structured organizations that consider themselves entrepreneurial. And so the definition really spans a very, very wide spectrum. But it's anyone who's really willing to take a risk, who's willing to invest their own time and capital, and actually has some discomfort in a kind of corporate setting. Those people tend to go out and start something on their own with an idea first, capital second, and a vision third.
Are there some traits that you can identify other than not wanting to work in a corporate environment necessarily?
They're willing to take risks. That is probably the most important trait that we find, that they've got this idea, this compelling idea in their own mind, and they want to convince the rest of us that it's something that should actually be undertaken. And as a consequence of that, an entrepreneur there is no general definition. They can look and seem different than anything else you've ever seen.
How did this idea come into existence for the Chamber of Commerce, this Big Five program we know about, but how did this specific part of it come to fruition?
So one of the Big Five is, in fact, the drive to make us a very entrepreneurial community. And Mike, what happened was we were thinking about the long-term health and vitality of the Greater Kansas City economy. And we said, you know, one of the things we really need to think about are future businesses. We have a wonderful array of businesses that have been here for 10, 20, and 30 years, but where's the next Hallmark coming from? Where's the next Garmin coming from? Where's the next Cerner coming from? And we felt like, and the research showed us, that in fact we were not considered amongst America's most entrepreneurial communities. And I remember distinctly talking to Carl Schramm at the time at the Kauffman Foundation, and he said to me, just declare that we are America's most entrepreneurial city. And I, quite candidly, was very uncomfortable with that because I knew that we weren't there yet. But he said, just declare it and make it happen over the next 5 years or so.
Are we there now? Are we there now?
We're not there just yet. Our research shows that there are 6 fundamental things that a community has to have to be considered a highly entrepreneurial area. Those things range from you need to have lots of people who are entrepreneurial by nature. You need to have capital to fund those businesses. You need to have resources. And let me say this. Kansas City is second to none in America in having resources from the Kauffman Foundation, from the Block School, from Kansas City SourceLink, and other resources. We own that one. There's not another city in America that can put a candle to us that way. Where we lack in the spirit of entrepreneurship, and we lack in capital. And one of the things I'm working very hard on right now is how do you create what I like to call networked capital? There's enough money running around Kansas City to fund these ideas.
Well, you're at a bank that has a lot of it.
Well, we've got it, but bankers are not the normal place you go for early stage capital. You have to go first to friends and family, and then secondarily you go out to other individuals who are interested in investing in these early stage high risk enterprises. And banks generally don't do that. And so we have been trying to bring together all the capital sources, if you will, in Kansas City so that we can do larger deals. Here's what I found out. Early stage, $50,000, $100,000, we can get that done. But when these companies grow to a point where they need $2 and $3 million, that's when we lose them. That's when somebody from outside Kansas City comes in, funds them, and says, if I'm going to fund you, you need to move to Silicon Valley.
Money doesn't come originally from banks. It comes from other sources, some government programs?
Generally speaking, that's true. And while some banks will fund early stage enterprises, generally there's not a lot of collateral for us to take. And so banks are not the primary source of funding. Yes, you go to hedge funds might do that. Here in town, we're setting up something called Flyover Capital. That fund has one express purpose, which is to invest in early stage companies here in Kansas City. That's going to be a game changer for us over the next few years.
If somebody watching thinks he or she is a potential entrepreneur, what's next? What would you suggest? Do you have a website or a location folks can go to?
That one's easy. Call Kansas City SourceLink. Maria Myers has put together the very, very best place for one to go if they have an idea, but they're not quite sure where to take it. KansasCitySourceLink.com, or call their offices, and they will direct you to all the resources in Kansas City that can help them be successful.
Peter De Silva, thanks very much for coming by. Appreciate your time. Now let's go meet the Rockettes and see if we can start a ruckus. Yale Abahaka is a columnist with the Kansas City Star. Marianne Murray Simons is a freelance writer and consultant. Mary O'Halloran is a media and communications consultant, and Ron Freeman is a motivational speaker and author. What it seems to be coming down to is the coming down of Kemper Arena. While still unofficially settled, it appears the 4-decade-old building will disappear and the American Royal will be housed in a newer, smaller structure. At least that's the goal of the American Royal Association, which includes some of the biggest names in Kansas City business and civic life. And Yale, this battle may demonstrate how power players get that title.
You think? Okay.
Well, if I hadn't thought, I wouldn't have said it that
I guess
way.
so. Two things. One, I'm not a big supporter of Kemper Arena as a building. So if they tear it down, they tear it down. But the other thing is, really what Kansas City needs to be doing here is thinking of the future of the West Bottoms. What's best for the future of that little area down there that could really be a dynamo for our entire city in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. So what's best for that area? And the second thing is, if the council, as you kind of indicate, are going to be, going to kowtow to Patterson and other people like that, once they get that deal in place, it needs to be ironclad. Oh, you said you're going to tear down Kemper Arena? Well, you tear it down, and then the cost overruns, you pay for them. Oh, you said you're going to put up that building, and you're going to contribute all the money necessary to do it except for the $20 million we give you from taxpayers? Great. Everything has to be in writing with these guys. Everything has to be said. You're going to take over the stuff that basically maintains the facilities. Great. All that stuff has to be in writing. As we've already seen, they will push people around. They will write threatening letters. And I'm talking about people who have basically an event that almost nobody cares about. I mean, let's be honest, except for the barbecue. Nobody cares about the American Royal, that much. I mean, when they're asking for $20 million of my money, I guess I'd like to have a vote on it. We have votes on other things that aren't that big.
Marianne, do you care about the American Royal?
Absolutely. I think it is part of Kansas City's persona. And I think there are so many people invested in what's happening at the Royal. But it's at certain periods of time during the year. The fall seems to be very high profile, the barbecue, all of those kinds of things, really draws everyone in. It's that long-term sustainability and what the Royal does to engage itself 12 months out of the year that I think goes to your question of what's the responsibility of the group.
Let me put it this way, Marianne. Do you care about Kemper Arena?
I think there's a future for the American Royal beyond the building itself. And I think a new building is probably in its future.
Well, it looks like it probably is. I mean, and everybody's engaged to some degree in the American Royal. I went to the emu exhibit one year. It was great. I don't know anything about emus. But yes, your article in the Star, Yale, insinuated that it was the playground for the rich and the powerful, and that they were using their influence and their enormous wealth to get what they wanted for a playground.
Yes.
Did you imply that?
I think the editorial insinuated that.
Well, I think that's a little harsh, because there still is in Kansas City, if you take the metro as a whole, a tremendous identification with our history and our agricultural past and animals and all the things that this that makes life wonderful. But I am sympathetic to the developer, Mr. Fauch, who had a great idea. Many American cities have invested heavily in youth sports, and this ought to be one of them.
Well, the Fauch brothers got frightened off, I guess, by the threat of a lawsuit.
Right.
All right. Well, While Kemper may be coming down, one wonders if the Mission Gateway Center will ever come up. There's a new plan for the vacant area at Shawnee Mission Parkway and Row in Mission. It's smaller than its several predecessors and depends in part on public financing. Shawnee Mission Parkway and Row seems like it ought to be a prime area for development. So what is the problem, Mary Ann Murray, Simon Smith, Jones Brown?
It all comes down to money. It's about money, Mike, and it's about public financing for the project. And whether or not the developer who's been stringing this project along for nearly a decade can get the construction financing to move the project forward. An editorial that was in the 913 section of the Kansas City Star earlier this week, I think was written by one of my colleagues here.
Excellent editorial.
Wasn't me.
Talks about what its future might be. And we're looking at a $100 million project right now, which is mainly a Walmart Supercenter, which will be the centerpiece.
There you go.
There you go.
There is a Walmart within a half a mile of the current Mission Gateway site. What's the net
But it's
gain?
moving
Well, no, that's
to
the
Mission
one that's
Gateway.
moving.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I'm saying, what is the net gain of moving it 1/2 mile to the south?
Won't there be other retail, presumably, and a boutique hotel, whatever that is?
Very small compared to what was initially proposed. There's been an aquarium proposed. There's been high-end office space. There has been other amenities. They've all fallen away. And the developer continues to sort of string the Mission City Council and Planning Commission along. Theoretically, this is all coming together, but we're anxious to see it happen.
So is
You're
Mission
very
Gateway
nice. Very nice.
is Mission Gateway mission impossible? Do we think that
Well,
there's no?
after 10 years, you'd think, wouldn't you? I mean, there are certain aspects that you might agree with this, Ron, that are outrageous. That a perfectly good shopping center is torn down, and this thing lets sit there because some guy from New York waltzes in and says, "Look what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
And it's going to be all very boutique-y and high-end. Now what are we getting? Your regular old Walmart, a couple of, little strip mall stuff, and I don't know, apartments.
I missed the Mission Mall. I really liked it. I used to go there a lot.
But
All right.
it's got to support itself, though. You can't just put it there because you want to.
Well, the big hole is not supporting anything.
Defeat is a tough pill to swallow, and Democrats across the two-state area are swallowing hard. Last week's elections increased Republican majorities in both the Missouri and Kansas legislatures. In Kansas, Governor Sam Brownback, the object of harsh media criticism and alleged perpetrator of financial disaster, has been reelected, albeit by a small margin. Both states may see smaller tax bills, fewer regulations, continued friction over school finance, and no major expansions of Medicaid. Republicans are often accused on this program and elsewhere of being out of touch with popular opinion. If they are, in fact, how did they win so big on November 4th across the country and here in the metro area? Ron.
Well, Mike, I think it's interesting you have the media's perception, which is Republicans are bad and out of touch. And you have it painted that Sam Brownback had created this negative circumstance in Kansas economically. But if you look at a lot of the evidence, what you have is a static response, billion-dollar deficit, to a dynamic situation, which is you're going to have an economy that's growing. Now, what's interesting is Creighton University has done a study on Kansas, and economically, it's really poised for growth. Now, I tell you what's interesting is to see that a record number in the last 2 years of new businesses moving into Kansas. And you have the environment where you're going to see growth. And actually, you've already seen growth in corporate taxes and growth in sales taxes in the state of Kansas. So there's every reason to expect positive. But we created this negative firestorm, which is the reason why the race was even, 4-point difference. Similar to Senator Roberts. There's just a difference between the media.
The negative firestorm. What are you talking about?
Who reported there's a $1 billion deficit?
Well,
Let me ask you, Ron,
There
is there one? I mean, the projected cost of running the state through 2016 will presumably be $1 billion more than what revenues will come in.
But it's interesting that with the Obamacare, you have projected deficits of literally hundreds of billions of dollars, and nobody's concerned, but we have this perception that we can't solve the problem. Now, you have a leadership both in the governor's mansion and the legislature today that says we're going to address the problem. And you know what? If the corporate environment is favorable, if you have tax revenue that are on the rise, then you got to expect that things can be fixed and changed instead of saying, oh, it's over with, and you're making a decision 4 years from now.
Well, Mary Ann, you're a Kansas resident, have been for quite a while. I think you were
My
a
entire life.
native Kansan.
That's right.
How do you react to what's going on in Topeka and the questions over the budget deficit?
I think it's terrible. I think we're getting so much attention over things that just shouldn't have to be talked about. We should obviously give money to people who need it for health care, for education. They shouldn't be questions.
And education and healthcare revenues they're there. They're increasing spending.
You
in all
know,
those
just
areas in the next
because
2
you
years.
say that's true doesn't mean it's true.
It's documented. It's there.
It is not
Look at the bottom
documented.
line.
No, it's not.
And it's
and I
interesting
think,
that
Mike, what the
if
issue
you don't
is in
increase
this
it enough, it's a
election,
cut. And
people
that's
just didn't
ridiculous.
come out to vote. And that really is the issue. There's so much apathy. People feel so disconnected. I believe that's the reason that we
The
came
budget
up
director, Sean Sullivan, said this in the Kansas City Star: "The state of Kansas must continue to live within its means, just as families do every day. Our primary focus will be to curtail growth in state spending through additional efficiencies and policy proposals. There will be no revisiting of the state's tax policy."
Well, that's a firm statement.
Well, two things about that statement. One, you know, as a leader of a family, I don't go out and consciously cut my revenues so I won't make as much money next year, which is exactly what the state of Kansas did without any plan, real plan, to have people, you know, more people come in and replace those revenues. There was a plan. It wasn't a real plan. The second thing is corporate revenues are up and individual income taxes are down hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, so
please get me started on the facts, Ron, because I do have them on
more money.
I watched them for 18 months.
We put more money in individual pockets, right?
No,
Kansas
no,
put
you're not.
More money in
Here's
individual
what you're
pockets.
doing,
Yeah,
Ron.
you just said that.
The Republicans
say
give a little individual income tax, and then over in Shawnee Mission District and the Blue Valley District, they have to pass tax increases to fund their education from local, so you're not really having more money in. The second thing about Sean's statement was, we're going to do, you know, efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. And I asked the Department of Revenue about that. Well, did you cook these into the books as far as when you're looking ahead? No, they didn't. Well, that tells me two things. One, that tells me they don't know if these efficiencies are true, and they really don't know how much they are.
Mike, let me just make a comment here. You know, this isn't the first time we've discussed this. We've been talking about the $1.5 billion deficit. If you take
voters should have been well aware of the possibility.
That is correct.
If nothing changes between now and the end of his current plan with the current cuts, so that upper income people can have tax cuts, $1.5 billion deficit. Now you either have to raise taxes or you have to do extraordinary amount of cutting to the big ticket items. And guess what? Johnson County right-wing Republicans are now beginning to talk about tax increases. Yesterday and the day before. And others are saying, oh, no. We'll just cut Medicaid and we'll cut schools and we'll find efficiencies.
Would a tax increase be the appropriate thing for the state government to do?
Well, if you got in $1.5 billion hole by giving away the Treasury, you have to fill it back up again.
The hole is projected. It doesn't really exist
was
yet.
that nominee of the Democratic Party, Paul Davis's recommendation?
He talked about freezing.
Freezing
it at least.
So that would
freeze it.
suggest the present level is appropriate? If you freeze it?
It's not a long-range plan. You can't go on like this without severely diminishing public services.
All right.
And education would be first on the
I don't think it'll happen that way.
Now that the smoke has cleared, so to speak, on the recent elections, efforts are underway again to legalize marijuana in Missouri. A petition drive has begun to put the question on the 2016 ballot. Supporters are encouraged by votes in Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. approving marijuana use. It's already legal in Colorado and Washington State. So, Mary, is Missouri likely to join these states in 2016?
I think so. There's something kind of peculiar. There are a lot of peculiar things about Missouri, but one of them is
but we love it.
It has all these kind of radical right-wing people, lots of liberal people, and there's a few leftists here and there, and lots of people in the middle who kind of like to do what they want to do. We can't tax one of our favorite drugs is nicotine, and they won't tax that at a reasonable rate. We subsidize liquor and alcohol consumption. We like our drugs, you know. And I think as the rest of the country does a good job of managing the selling of marijuana and the possession of marijuana as a legal drug. I think particularly Washington State is doing a good job with this. I think Missourians will say, well, you know, why are we spending millions on this kind of law enforcement when the real problems need more money?
And some of the revenues would go to help education in Missouri. And pension costs
and maybe Kansas,
other things.
billions
This
of dollars
is a
in
cultural
revenues.
leftover from the 60s when we said anybody who smoked pot was a commie, anti-war, somebody or other. And
Well,
now,
aren't they?
Larry, let me ask you, is legalizing...
you never smoked pot, Ron? Now, can you say
is
that?
legalizing
Yes, I
marijuana
can.
is legalizing marijuana associated with one, both, or neither political parties?
Oh, I suppose because it's more libertarian about personal behavior, it might be more associated with the Democratic Party, but I don't see it as a particularly partisan issue as it's come out of Colorado and Washington. But Washington, D.C. is going to be a big problem because the federal government regulates or talks about marijuana in the same breath as they talk about heroin. And they prosecute it, you know.
Let me go over here to Mary Ann. What about public attitudes toward recreational marijuana during your lifetime, from the time you were a young teenager to now? Have you seen changes in the public's attitude, do you think?
I do. I think people are they're more open about so many things. And I think it is a consumer movement that's moving forward, and it's a potential revenue opportunity, as Mary said. So why not capture that revenue and be able to use it for something that matters?
Because it doesn't make a lot of sense, maybe. I mean, why,
Like
we're
why?
already having an alcohol-infused, induced society where that's legal, where people get drunk and kill people on the road, and we get revenue from that. Well, that's great. Now we're going to have marijuana, you know, being taxed for schools, which is crazy.
Right.
The money will disappear. Sorry, I'm not a big supporter of it.
Well, you've got, the bottom line is people are using now. I mean, you can
Right.
pretend that it's not happening, but it is. And then if you say, well, it's going to happen, we can't really, at this point in the game, stop it. And the beautiful thing about this is it's going to be a referendum. It's not the legislature making the call, but the citizens of Missouri get the vote, and they get to determine what they want to do.
It has failed before in Missouri,
Yeah.
But this time, 2016 would be a year, I presume, when lots of people would turn out and you
Sure.
might have a better chance of getting it passed.
Well,
I think it will.
showmecannabis.com.
Now, Ron, should it pass in Missouri, if it passes in Missouri, you're a former executive director of the Kansas GOP. What do you think the chances would be in Kansas of taking a look at legalizing marijuana, recreational marijuana?
Well, it might address the revenue shortfall. Who knows? But I do think that, I mean, it's something that's nationally, it's changing. That's a dynamic that's changing. Culturally, people are, again, more and more. It's not like it's not hidden. I have friends that smoke. And you probably do too, Mike.
I don't have friends. Ron.
but it's out there, and so what's going to happen? We're going to vote, and I think in Kansas will probably be
Well,
one too.
it's not certain that we're going to vote. First
No,
of all, this petition drive has to be really sophisticated, and it's costly. I don't know how many 100,000 signatures you have to get. So that's a high hurdle.
It has to be approved by the state too. It has to go through
It
some
does.
readings, I guess, by the
Secretary of
Attorney
State.
General and other agencies
Right.
to make sure it's in proper form. What's your
Right.
prediction, Mary Ann?
I think it will be approved.
You think it's inevitable in Missouri and then
Across the
throughout
nation,
the country?
I think it's inevitable.
Kind of like same-sex marriage seems to be inevitable, even though there are some delays apparently in Kansas. But there are some things that seem to be changing with the passage of time, and this would be among them.
I think so.
All right, it is time now for Roast and Toast, where the Rockettes offer a pat on the back or a kick in the pants to people or events in the news. And we start with Mary Ann Marie Simons.
Thank you, Mike. I was so pleased with Mayor Sly James' comments after the announcement this week that 2 suspects had been arrested in the brutal murder of little 6-year-old Angel Hooper. He said, why do we continue to allow people to pick up guns and shoot each other when they have an argument? We've got to get beyond that. We've got to figure that out. And I hope the mayor takes that comment as his plan to move forward in the city of Kansas City and then beyond with something substantive that controls this horrific crime?
I'd like to toast Governor Brownback and the Kansas Republican Party for standing their ground and winning a key election for this region.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right,
Oh,
Gail.
good. More time for my roast, because we've had 2 toasts so far.
You're up.
Well, I'm going to roast Republicans and Democrats because I've been hearing from all of them like, well, the elections are over. Why don't you start being nice? No, you know, Nancy Pelosi is still going to be the leader of the House. Give me a break. Harry Reid, the failed leader of the Senate, is going to be the minority leader. Sam Brownback is still in charge of economic disaster there. All of these topics and more need attention going forward because we need to move the country forward, and you can't do it with failed leadership of those people and some others. It needs attention.
Well, here's somebody, Yale, who isn't giving failed leadership. I want to toast the President of the United States before Thanksgiving. You know, he could have crawled in a hole after getting beaten as badly as he did on Election Day. However, in the last few days, the President has begun to show what real leadership is about. A stunning new agreement with China that no one really saw coming because the 2 leaders worked it out together. And for the first time, climate change, a real agreement with China. Net neutrality, a strong statement by the President in favor of it. For election where it was the worst turnout in 72 years, this President didn't take that to heart. He goes full steam ahead. Good for him.
And that's going to do it for Ruckus this week. Thanks to Marianne Murray-Simons and Ron Freeman for joining us. Next week, we have the Steves, Rose and Glorioso, joining Woody and Gwen on the program. Thanks again for watching. On behalf of the Ruckettes and the Ruckus crew, Mike Shannon, good night.
Special coverage on KCPT of the Greater Kansas City Chamber's Big 5 initiatives is funded by Pulcinelli.